Okay. Hi, everyone. Oh, there's Jennifer already chatting with us. Good morning. Thanks for joining us this Monday morning. It's Coffee and Conversations. My name is Erin Gallagher, and I am with This Is My Brave. I'm a program manager, and I am joined today with Allison Herman, who is from Hope for the Day. Welcome, Allison. Thanks for joining us. Oh, got the coffee. Yes. Way to go. We don't even have branded mugs. I'm so sorry that we didn't plan well enough in advance.
No, no
Thanks for
worries.
coming in with us today. How are you?
Good, good. I'm in Chicago, so
Chicago.
it's a little dreary today, but we're
Yeah,
making it work.
we've got some dreary here. I'm in the Richmond area, Central Virginia, and a little dreary here too, unfortunately. But we had a beautiful weekend, so that was
Yeah.
wonderful. So, Allison, can you just give us a quick, elevator pitch on what Hope for the Day is all about? We'd love to know a little bit more about your organization.
Yeah, so we are a nonprofit that works on proactive suicide prevention and mental health conversations. And proactive prevention is basically starting the conversation prior to the crisis stage. So when you think of crisis stage, that's self-harm activities, that's uh, that suicide attempt, and that's usually where a lot of traditional resources sit, is that you're helping someone at the crisis stage or right after. And Hope for the Day basically wants to teach people skills as you're escalating and kind of recognizing how to have that conversation and just tell people it's okay not to be okay and just start the discussion earlier.
Yeah, such a fan of that. Um, I lost my son 5 years ago to suicide, and it wasn't on my radar at all. That wasn't something, I mean, we talked about it in general. We didn't really, never saw him in crisis in particular. And so that's sort of become some of the work that we're trying to get involved with at This Is My Brave is suicide prevention that is proactive, because when I do look for resources and I am looking, like if I'm going to do a talk or something and I'm looking for something to how to talk to your kids about suicide, it always, everything I trip over says if you see signs like this, that, or that, then you should ask your kids if they're thinking about suicide. And I just, obviously we should be equipping them well in advance of that. And so, that I advocate for that now, just starting those conversations before there's even an issue, because of course that's the worst time. Nobody's in the position to have a reasonable conversation. So you offer training to this effect, right? And so tell
Yeah.
me about what you guys do there.
Yeah. So we have a general, it's what we call it things we don't say. And it's an hour and a half, can be adapted to be an hour. And it's basically a conversation about it. It goes through like who Hope for the Day is, what proactive prevention is, the thing we just talked about, the difference between the crisis stage and then escalation. And then we walk through like how to create an environment where someone feels like they can share how they're feeling. So the the general feeling of when someone asks how you're doing and you're like, I'm fine. Like we try to
Yeah.
get rid of that. We have a bunch of discussions around like what your bottle shaker is, because we talk about what shakes your bottle and builds a lot of pressure in your day. And we basically try to normalize those conversations and set it up in a way where, as you just said, it's not these are the things you got to look out for. It's more just creating an environment where people feel safe to share, like, I'm not having a great day, or like, I have this diagnosis and it's messing with me. So that's what we hope to do with those conversations. And we also have specialized programming for different communities. So the one that's currently active, we have it's called Project Red Team. It's for veterans, first responders, and military. And basically,
Nice.
it's tailored to their community. The person who does presentations with them knows the military and the veteran community incredibly well. And it's starting a conversation with a peer-to-peer experience. So Hope for the Day, none of us are clinicians. We're all
Right.
peer-to-peer. And a lot of
Okay.
us have life experience that puts us in a spot where we can have these conversations and make it much more authentic and personal. Because I feel like, as you just like said, sometimes a lot of those traditional resources are like hitting these exact things and like very clinical focused, and it feels a little bit colder than like talking to a friend. So that's kind of
Yeah.
what we do in our hour and a half workshop, is we we want to figure out how to make those conversations easy.
Yeah, I think you do a great job. We, as a team, the This Is My Brave team, took your workshop, the things we don't say,
Yep.
led by you and one of your colleagues. And so that was really just so great to see. I really appreciate that you're taking the time to start, to encourage people to open up and start these conversations, destigmatize the talk, the feelings talk. So how did you become involved with Hope for the Day? Like, when did you start working there, and what brought you there?
Yeah, so I started volunteering with Hope for the Day in 2018. In like 2000, I would say either like 16 or 17, I was working at a company that Hope for the Day came in and did a presentation in our like general space.
Okay.
So it was one of those things where I'm kind of just getting my morning tea, and I was like, oh, this is a thing that's happening today.
Yeah.
And I sat down, and it was just a very different way to talk about it. And I ended up contacting the people who did that presentation about a friend of mine, trying to figure out resources for them. And then I started volunteering. And then now I work full time for Hope for the Day as an educator, which is really, really cool. So it's like a nice little progression.
Yeah. So were you in education before?
No, so I was in advertising.
Okay.
I've been in the ad industry. I decided when I went to college that I wanted to figure out a way to make money with art, but also like be able to pay off all my loans. Both my parents work in nonprofit work,
Yeah.
and I always wanted to go back to it, but I knew that like I would have to pay off loans and figure out how to like be an adult.
Yeah.
And starting at a low salary is really rough.
Yeah.
When you're trying to achieve those goals. So I always knew this is something I wanted to go back to. But no, I built a lot of. I was an advertising major. I have comm skills. Like I started in that world and then kind of took my business skills and came back into nonprofit. So
yeah. So the plan worked.
It did.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of never thought it would because I was in high school during the first economic situation. And then with COVID and everything, I was like, well, I don't know if I can do this, but it worked out. So
yeah. So you were volunteering, and then when did you come on full time?
I came on full time about 2 months ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
wow.
Yeah.
So the training that I did with we must have done that while you were still in the volunteer mode?
Yeah. So what we do with Hope for the Day is we have a bunch of different ways that you can volunteer. One of them is basically I went through a 40-hour training because one of our other subsets is a workplace specific conversation.
Yeah.
Like the one that brought me to Hope for the Day. But I was in a 40-hour training for that and got paid for that training. And then because it was our workplace conversations are more corporate clients who can pay us versus all of our free educations is what we usually do. So I was trained during quarantine, and I was really passionate about it. And then I just started doing more and more educations and signing up for more and more things. And then an opportunity presented itself, and I'm full time.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 2 months, like, that's great. I think it's wonderful personally to be working, like everybody has to work, right? So, but to feel like the work that we're doing is kind of moving the needle on really hard things, that's more fulfilling to me than moving the needle on some big boss's bottom line, So,
yeah.
And wait, you just said something that made me think. I was going to ask about your friend. Like, how did the conversation, the tips that you got, guide you in a conversation to help him or her?
Yeah, they had a really. So what I found in my life is that I have always had a good conversation with people around me about mental health. I have a family member that I grew up with who was having a really rough go of it from a pretty early age. And I saw them going to therapy, and I saw them struggling. And we had a lot of those conversations really early about like why all the scissors in the house are missing, and like conversations about that. And also there were many instances. I grew up in a very small place where like I remember somebody in high school completed suicide, and a lot of my friends I would always be the person that would be easy to talk to. So I kind of just fell into it. So yeah, my friend, the biggest thing that I noticed with my friend was that basically they had never had someone to talk to. And then I also had resources to offer them now that I had taken this Hope for the Day class.
Right.
And it was just like this world of possibility, because I remember even with my own experience, I didn't know how to find a therapist. I didn't know how to like go through that process. It just felt so daunting. And I remember going to I think I went to my second Hope for the Day presentation, and they were like, psychology today, here's how you do it, click all the boxes. And I'm like, oh, this is, again, it should be easier, but it's really, really not.
Yeah.
So yeah, like having a friend who could listen to them was like really, really helpful.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, we're good.
So, I mean, that's part of what you talk about in the training is to be those, you know, that set of ears that they may not have, and to be the person that they can share information with, and, you know, hopefully be able to provide those resources. It's a little intervention to take them further or closer to getting the help that they need.
Yeah.
And then, look, wait, I have a question here from the audience. Isn't this exciting?
Exciting.
Oh, well, we're shifting gears. Jen was asking if you would talk about the Mental Health Month coffee blend that Sip of Hope has available. Now, Sip of Hope, can you tell us just what Sip of Hope is before we go into the coffee blend that's available?
Yeah. So I work for Hope for the Day, which is the parent company, and then Sip of Hope is our coffee roaster. We have a coffee roaster, and we also have a shop, like an actual coffee shop in Chicago. And it's a really cool space. It was set up to be a place where people could come and just be themselves, and if they needed to come in and talk to someone, all of our baristas have the education to do that and basically have a conversation. So it's like walking into a much like more informed Starbucks in a lot of ways, where like, you know, that everybody there is safe, you know, that if you're having a rough day and you just need to chill out in a space that gets it, like that's what that's about. Admittedly, I don't have the background on our new roast because that's not always what my focus is.
Oh.
So I'm being totally honest with you.
Thank you.
But I believe in either this week or next week, you have Becca, who is our events and marketing person, and she absolutely could clue you in on that.
Well, hey, that's a great plug for next week's conversation. Same time, same place. Becca will let us know what that specialty Sip of Hope blend is for this month. So, so I used to work at a coffee shop, and actually I started with a friend. Started kind of as her assistant manager, kind of getting it off the ground. So we started she was way deeper into all the details, but I got trained as a barista. And it's true that you do get people who show up and, you know, they just want it was more than I imagined that we would get people who just wanted to be heard. And, you know, if they're having a bad day, just feel like somebody's there to listen. I didn't have any sort of training at the time in terms of being more informed in how I could be helpful, but just listening alone was enough, and affirming them in their whatever space they were in. That was a lot of my job. While I sat there and pulled shots, I also just was a good listener and tried to be supportive. So it's a great idea, and I'm can't wait to get there and check it out. It seems like a really cool place to be. So, you have anything coming up on the horizon with Hope for the Day that you're excited about, that you are looking forward to?
Yeah. So it's Mental Health Awareness Month. So it's one of our busiest months. I think I have at least 2 presentations. I have a day every day this month. I'm sorry, let's start over. Every week this month, I have at least one day with a double presentation where I'd like presentation in the morning, presentation in the evening. So it's just, I get to meet a lot of cool community members from all over because our educations are online now. So before it used to just be, we would go somewhere in Chicago, but now because we have that ability to just get online and talk to people from all over, it's just really cool to meet people, who are interested, especially during Mental Health Awareness Month. But yeah, I've been developing, quick plug. But I've been developing an LGBT plus specific variant similar
Okay.
to Project Red Team.
That's
Um,
so good.
yeah,
Necessary.
because that's a whole other, when you're trying
Yeah.
to find a therapist and you're an LGBT plus person like myself, it's a whole other mess. I imagine for any marginalized identity, a lot of people, it's just an extra piece on top.
Right.
So we are hoping to launch that in late summer, early fall, which I'm super,
Okay.
super excited about.
And you have a hand in developing that?
I do. Yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
that's the way Hope for the Day does their stuff is we basically, someone is like, I think this is a community that needs something. And then we start doing focus groups and we start having
Yes.
conversations, and we have a clinical oversight committee that checks our stuff to make sure we can say that and
Okay.
point people in that direction. And yeah, I've been working on it for like a year and a half. So I'm
Wow.
super excited for that. But yeah, I'm just sitting here thinking of all of the presentations that we have lined up for the month of May, and it's just really, really exciting. I
Yeah.
meet people almost every day who are just like, how can we get involved? How can I bring this into my space? We've had a lot of high schools reach out too recently,
That's
and junior
awesome.
highs, to
Yeah.
be like, hey, the pandemic is rough. It's rough
Yeah.
on our students. How can we get prepared for the school year?
Yeah.
So yeah, one of the things I really, really love is I don't have to do a lot of sales work. People usually just show up and they're like, we need you. How can we do this? So
That's
it's really
cool.
cool.
So I have found that Hope for the Day, that just the resources that are on your website alone, there's just such a diverse offering. And so whatever your people out there who are watching right now are into, they'll probably find some form of it on your website. And so the training that you offer, just to recap, those are free to anybody who wants to sign up.
Yes, all of our programs are free except for anything that's like a corporate partnership experience.
Okay.
But yeah, you can go on to our website and go under Educated, and you basically can see all the stuff that's going on,
Yeah.
and you can sign up for a webinar. And it's interactive. I do like to warn people of that
Yes.
because sometimes people are like, well, I'm just going to sit there and listen. Like, I ask you questions, I ask for audience participation. Like,
Yeah.
it's very, very conversational, very interactive, so that we can make that conversation easier.
Right.
Because,
Like, let's get started right now. Why wait to
yeah,
the end of this training? We can start talking about this now, get loosen things up a little. So the one that you're developing for the LGBTQ plus community, that will be also available in that same format.
yeah,
Okay, great.
yeah.
And you're thinking fall for that.
Yeah, I'm thinking fall. And it's the similar setup to Project Red Team, where it's really honing in on specific things for that community,
Yeah.
specifically. Because yeah, as we've done more work, we started with things we don't say. We've been around since 2011. So we did the general things we don't say, and the more we went into these conversations with people, they're like, well, yes, but I have this X factor that's making it a little bit harder than like the general conversation.
Right.
So yeah, that's where we started to create that specialized programming. And I like that you brought up resources on our website, because I'm really proud of our find dash help tool, which is like
Okay.
it's a huge database by Aunt Bertha, I think is what it's called. And you can basically put in your zip code and it'll show you resources that are available near you, which is
Nice.
like a really, really cool option. Especially because we're digital now. And I often have people from California being like, where do I go? And I'm like, well, I have this tool. Because if
Thank
it's
goodness,
outside,
because how else would you know?
yeah, because if it's outside of the Chicago area, like sometimes I don't
Yeah.
know, but that tool is really, really helpful because it can go through zip code. And it's also got stuff on there because mental health isn't just what's going on in your head, it's also food insecurity and housing
Yes.
instability and all of those
Yeah.
conversations. So that tool also has that stuff. Um,
Wow.
so if you have stressors in your life that are making things worse, it's really helpful to check out that tool, even if it's not just like, I need to find a therapist. It could be other things too. Like I need childcare and how do I do that? So
Yeah,
it's really
that's
helpful.
awesome. Um, I have another question that's popped up here, so let's take a look. Oh, again, Jen. Thanks, Jen, for all the prompts. Asking if anybody can sign up for the training. You don't have to be invited to join or part of an organization, although you do organizational work, but just any person who's curious about starting mental health conversations with their friends could sign up on your website to go take that training?
Yeah, we've had everyone. We've had clinicians, we've had community members. I've had people as young as like 15. So
Cool.
it's
Yeah.
it's all over the place. We did a collaboration with Demi Lovato a while ago, and
Okay.
we had a bunch of people from all over, and we had people from all ages just excited to start talking, which is just
Yeah.
really, really cool.
Yeah. Well, our vision statement for This Is My Brave is that we will one day live in a world where we won't have to call it brave to talk openly about mental illness. We'll simply call it talking. So
Yeah.
that's why I love that we've connected with you, because you guys are obviously on the same page and doing great work. The other thing I want to point out is that many trainings for mental health, for being a helper to others in mental health, are extensive and can be really time challenged. I mean, they're excellent. Yeah, I don't want to disparage those other things, but this is a great stepping in point if you're curious about starting conversations. Yours run an hour. You said an hour and a half.
Yeah, an
Yeah,
hour to an hour and a half.
so accessible. It's not going to take away the whole weekend. It's just going to be a little bit to get things started, to get you thinking, and maybe even get some conversations started in your own community, which I think is amazing.
Yeah.
So in the chat over here on the side, we've seen that some of the resources that have been mentioned in our talk, they're all there. If people who are watching want to check those out, you can just click right there in the chat. So, Allison, I just want to thank you so much for starting
Yeah.
off the very first Hope for the Day conversation of the month. Thanks for giving us a little bit of your time, since it's such a busy month for you. I'm so glad you were able to carve out some time.
For sure.
And I hope that folks will jump over and go check out your trainings and do that with you. I found you to be an excellent instructor. I really like the tone that it wasn't so like textbook. I didn't feel like you were reading from a script. It was very conversational and inspiring. And so I would really recommend it to anybody who's watching.
Thank you. Yeah, we do a really good job of basically taking pieces of ourselves and putting it into the presentation as we feel comfortable. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's not rehearsed. There's no medical vernacular you have to walk away with. I don't give you like a vocab list. It's very,
Yeah.
very easy.
Yeah, I found that to be true. So, well, thank you so much for
Yeah,
joining us this morning. And one more sip of the coffee, a little cheers to you.
yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Have a wonderful rest of your week.
You too.
Okay.